Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to this afternoon's webinar. This is part 2 of a 3-part series. It follows on from a session that we did yesterday afternoon. Now don't panic if you did miss yesterday's session. That is available as a recording, okay, and it is still going to work if you want to follow that up after this session. So please don't panic if you haven't been on that session. We will make sure that this can be standalone for you. But like I say, if you want to find the recordings, we will talk about those towards the end of the session today. Part 3 is on Thursday afternoon at 2 p.m, so same time, but on Thursday afternoon, we'll be looking at VAT reports, so which reports to run for reconciling your VAT figures. And we do a bit of an interactive session, so we're trying to get you involved and joining in with that session. So that's at 2 p.m. on Thursday, and again, I will give you more information on how to register for that session towards the end of today's. First of all, we'll just do some housekeeping. So your microphone is on mute, and that just means if you've got any questions, then we do just ask you to use the questions panel. So that is the icon that looks like the speech bubble with the question mark in the middle, and you can send your questions across to us today. Don't feel you need to wait till the end because we do have Michael on hand for any questions that you may have, and he will be here throughout. So please do just get those across to us. There is also a copy of the slides, so if you want to take a copy of the slides, you're more than welcome to do so using the icon that looks like the document with the folded corner, and that will give you a copy of the slides there. Finally, you will get an email later on today that will give you links to our upcoming webinars. There is a link in the chat that you should have seen when you joined the session today, which is a link to register for our next series, which starts next week, and it's a badged series. So please do take the opportunity to click on that link, open that up so you can have a look at a later point at what we've got coming up there. The email we'll send you today also has links to the recordings page as well, so you'll be able to follow up on this session and others after today finishes. Okay, so this is what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be looking at step 3 of the VAT return, which is post-reconciliation, but this is the process of doing VAT transfer journals, bank receipt or payment, and the VAT submission. So it is a slightly shorter session than the session we did yesterday. Tends to be around 30 minutes on this one. Just before we run a poll, I do just want to make you aware that if you do think that you need something a little bit more bespoke to your needs in your business and you'd like to actually look at one-to-one training, we do have sessions available. We've given some examples there of bundles that we can do for you. So we can do things like stock control, construction industry. It might just be that you've upgraded to Sage Professional and you want to understand those new features. So we do have training sessions available. So if you are interested, these are available across accounts and payroll. So again, it's coming up to payroll year end. If you're wanting a little bit more support, you can use this email address to arrange some support over that period. Okay, so first of all, before I jump into the PowerPoint, I do want to show you where we are in the software at this point in time. Okay, so I'm talking about step 3, but what do I mean by step 3? So I'm going to quickly just pull up one of my companies for today. And I'm going to go into the VAT window. And if you were on the session yesterday, you'll remember that we did do this VAT return here. Okay, so we did steps 1 and 2, which means that we calculated the figures and then we clicked on reconcile once we went through the steps. So in this particular return, if we just take a quick look at this here, you can see it's showing as pending under submission status. It's not showing as paid, but it is currently showing as VAT transferred. So I must have clicked on a button at some point, but don't worry, that's not what we're going to go through today. I'll have to restore it back up very quickly. So I'm just going to double click into here. There we go. And when we double click into here, this just takes me into step 3. Okay, so we've done number 1, which is prepare. We've done number 2, which is reconcile. And we're on to this step here. So it's these 3 steps that we're going to be taking a look at today. So it's the transfer of these journals, the submission and the recording of the payment there. So that's what we're focusing on today. So I'm just going to jump back to the slides then, and what we're just going to do is talk about that VAT transfer first of all. Okay. So first of all, what is that VAT transfer? Okay, so it's a process you do after your VAT return, and you should do it after each VAT return to transfer the values from your sales and purchase tax control accounts off those control accounts onto your VAT liability. And what that balance on the VAT liability should show then is what is owed to, or in some cases from, HMRC. Okay, so you can't make payments to the sales and purchase tax control accounts directly, okay, because they're control accounts. So you need to transfer those values across. Now, what happens if you don't do these transfers? Okay, if you don't, it's not the end of the world. Okay, so what I don't want is anyone panicking that they haven't done this and that they're going to have to start doing this and backdating it, because it's not the end of the world. But you might want to consider doing this as a tidy up routine, maybe next time you've got an opportunity to speak to your accountant. Okay, so it's really not going to break anything if you don't fix it right now. What you'll see though, if you don't do VAT transfer journals, is you'll start to accumulate balances on these three nominal codes, and they'll just start to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually someone might say, hang on, those figures look a bit odd. Okay, now for reporting purposes, it doesn't normally have an impact, and that's because those three nominal codes are normally grouped together with the chart of accounts. So they're grouped together. So actually those three figures are actually combined together. So when you run your balance sheet, the figure would be exactly the same, whether they were transferred or not. Okay, so it's more of a tidy up routine for your actual nominal codes, but it has no reporting impacts normally. So what we say is it's normally a bit of a tidy up routine. Okay, and what we did do during Making Tax Digital is identify that lots of customers have not done this or had not done this, and they started to backdate them, and it started to tidy things up for them. Like I say, run it by your accountant first. Please do not go out of your way to get your accountant in, but next time you're having a chat, if you haven't done it, maybe just mention it to them that you're considering doing it. Is there any implications of that? So they're a tidy up routine, and it's a good thing to do post VAT submission. So what that does, the three nominal codes at the bottom, is it transfers those figures for that period across from these nominal codes here, up to here, onto your VAT liability. Okay, so what do the transfer journals actually move? Okay, now this depends on whether you're doing a UK return or a Republic of Ireland return. Okay, so in the UK, it's basically box 1, which is your total VAT on sales, and your box 4, total VAT on purchases, but minus any adjustments that you've posted. Okay, so if you've posted adjustments, you don't include those in the figures you're transferring. If you're in the Republic of Ireland, then what it's going to do is it's different depending on whether it's a reclaim or a payment for your purchases. So for sales tax, it's the amount from the first box on your VAT return, which is the VAT charge on supply of goods or services. And for purchase tax, if it's a reclaim, then it's going to be box T4 plus the VAT charge on supply of goods and services. And if it's a payment due to the revenue, it's T2 minus the VAT due on intra-EU acquisitions and postponed VAT. Now, already you might be thinking this is really confusing. What am I transferring across? And this is why we've got these options in the software to take care of it for you. So don't panic, because at the click of a button, the software can take care of it for you. But there is a manual way and the sort of software way of doing it. So you can choose which one works best for you. Now, if you just bear with me 1 second, because I am just going to very quickly restore my backup into this one. I think I was practicing this earlier. I just want to get that data back correct for you so we can give you a good example of this. So bear with me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at two companies which have one's done the transfer and one hasn't. So bear with me just 1 second. I'll just get that one restored. So I'm going to bring across a different data set for the moment. And this one is the incomplete transfer. Okay, so this company here has done VAT returns. If we put them to the VAT window, only for 4 months. Okay, so it's done 4 months of returns. And as you can see, we've paid it, we've marked it as paid, but we haven't done the returns for 3 of the 4 months. Okay, now if I go into my nominal codes again, what you can see is over a period of those 3 months that we haven't done the transfer, we've got some balances there. Now, they're not huge balances, but as you can imagine, over a series of years, this might start to accumulate, particularly if your business is picking up. So these will start to show really large balances. Now let's just compare that to the same company. Okay, so this company is identical. The only thing that is different is I've transferred. Okay, so I've clicked on transfer. So if we look at the same nominal codes, here they are. Those balances are much lower, or in some cases they're cleared. Okay, now I wouldn't always expect your sales and purchase tax control accounts to come back to zero. In fact, that's probably a little bit out of the ordinary because they're cumulative nominal codes, but your VAT liability could very possibly come back to zero or very close to zero. Okay, but when you're starting to report, that will start to look a lot tidier when you run a trial balance of all your nominal codes, because these particular codes aren't going to really stand out. So like I say, that's the same data set, so I'll just confirm that, but you can see that we've done the transfer on all 4 of them. Okay, so the simple process of transferring has made those balances look very different from a trial balance point of view. Now, we're just going to go back into that first data set because I just want to show you the ways in which we can do this transfer. So I'm just going to bring this across. And we should be back in a VAT situation where we haven't done the transfer. There we go. So here we are. We've got my December return. And when we go into the return, we have not posted the journal yet. Okay, so that's not marked as posted. Okay, so we have the choice. We can do a manual journal for this to move the sales tax value across to the VAT liability and also the purchase tax across to the VAT liability. Bear in mind, if you're taking the figure from box 1, you can see that's including an adjustment. So this is slightly different to what's over here. So again, I would use the software, this VAT transfer section, just to tell you exactly what you need to transfer, because over here, it's including an adjustment that I popped on yesterday. Okay, so I'm going to show you the manual way first, and I think this is going to possibly answer a question that's just come through there, so bear with me. Just going to expand on my question panel so I can see the questions coming through. There we go. Okay, so I've got those figures written down, and what I can do is I can go into nominal codes and go into journal entry and do it manually this way. Just bear in mind that if we're doing it this way, we're opening up the potential for errors. Okay, so immediately I've had different figures there. I had 680 in the VAT transfer window, but on box 1 I had 780. So immediately there's a difference there. So you really do need to know exactly what you're transferring. Again, the first thing it's doing is it's pre-populating a date for me. Okay, so it's pre-populating today's date. Now, normally we default this to the last day of that VAT period. But again, if you miss that, you're potentially going to post that using the wrong date. I need to do a journal for each value. Okay, so I'm going to be starting with my sales tax control account, which is 2200. And I was going to journal this one out, and that was 680. And I then need to move that onto my VAT liability. Now, all the while, what you should be seeing is all the spaces and places where we can go wrong here. Okay, transposition of numbers, using the incorrect nominal code, not being sure on tax codes. So there's lots of room for things to go wrong at this point. Now, I'm not going to actually post this one, but I'm just trying to give you an example here. So this is the VAT on purchases, and that value was slightly different. So we're going to credit this one. And again, I've had to write all of these down so I can get the journals the right way around. Okay, and I've been doing this for a very long time and I still managed to get it wrong. So again, it just shows you things can go wrong even if you are the most experienced person with this. So we can use this as a journal. We can do that. The tax code should be T9 because it's an internal transfer and we don't pay VAT on VAT, but there is scope for things to go wrong. So we could just save at this point, and that would save the journal for me because that's currently balanced. Now, if you're on professional, okay, and that's only if you're on professional, so apologies if you're on essentials, you could potentially memorize this. And that just means you can save this for next time, okay? So I could say, I want to save my VAT transfer, just pop in the word Jan, and save. And what that will do is it will save most of this for you in terms of the nominal codes, the names. It can save the figures for you as well, but bear in mind next quarter, these will be different, so you would just need to change them. So if I wanted to use that feature, we just go back into journal entry. I could go into memorize, into recall. We've memorized them already, so we need to recall them. And we just named it VAT transfer January. As you can see, I've done this a few times now. There we go. And it's pulled back the same one. So next quarter, we could pull up January's, but just change the figures. So then we know, hopefully, the debits and credits are in the right place there. That is the manual way, okay? But remember, if you've got the VAT return here, you do have that option to post the journal at the click of a button. Okay, this takes out all of the user error. If you're unsure on the values that you should be transferring, it's automatically selected them for you based on whether or not you've done adjustments. So it takes a lot of the errors out. It also marks the VAT return as transferred, as you saw earlier. And I do it at the click of a button. So I simply click Post Journal. It's now marked as transferred, so I can't do it again accidentally. And when I close out of here, it just updates to say the VAT transferred. So it gives me a nice checklist, and that checklist now says that that job's done. Okay, so they do the same process, but this one will be far easier for you. However, if you want to continue doing it manually, if you have been doing so, you are more than welcome to. There's nothing that's going to stop you from doing that. So that's our balances transferred. What it's now done is it's popped a balance onto my VAT liability in this company that needs to be paid off. So I'm just going to very quickly skip past submission. We will come back to that in just a moment, because next we need to pay or receive payment from HMRC in the UK or ROS if we're in Ireland. Now again, this is where we've got the manual option or the automatic option. So in this case, it's a payment to HMRC. So what we could do is go into the bank payment feature and do a manual bank payment for £381.40. So we go into the bank module. Again, this is where there's some places you could potentially go wrong. I'm going to do a bank payment immediately, selecting the right bank account, making sure you've got the right date, which should be the date the money's leaving the bank account. So that may very well be today. But then again, I've got those issues with getting things wrong. Transposition of numbers, not sure on the tax code. It's a payment to HMRC, so it's non-VATable. And there we go. We could save it that way. Oh, we need to put the nominal code in. There you go. Another place you can go wrong. And that would clear the balance or remove that quotas balance, because you might have other things outstanding on VAT liability for other things. But again, if we close out of that and go into the VAT return, we do have the option to do it within here. Now, I won't say it at the click of a button because we do have to pop the date in. So again, pick the date that the money is going to leave your bank account, pop in a reference if you want to, and you can post the bank payment. What's great with this though is if it's a refund, this changes. This changes to bank record receipt, and this changes to post bank receipt. So it's clever enough to recognize. So you might not have noticed you're getting a refund, but the software will and post the correct transaction for you. So we can click post payment, that will post that BP transaction. But if we don't want to use this for each and we do want to do it manually, we can just tick to mark it as paid, so it ticks off on our little checklist there. But I'm going to click post bank payment, and there you go. You can see that's then paid. So again, it kind of prevents you from posting it twice unless you do it manually. So let's just take a look at those transactions that have appeared. So since we've done the transactions there, you can see I have, at the click of the button there where we posted the journal, we've got the 4 journals that I was going to post manually, but it did them all at one click. We've then got the VAT payment, and that is just posted when we did the payment in the wizard there. It's got all of the references, so it's got the reference that was entered, and again with the journals it shows you which VAT return they're relating to, so it makes it handy for you to sort of trace those transactions. And if we look at the VAT return, you can see now in our checklist this one is paid and it's VAT transferred, so it allows us to keep track of where we are with things. Now we are, however, in a status of pending, okay? And that means at the moment that hasn't yet been submitted to HMRC or ROS. So I'm going to jump back to the slides for this bit. Like I say, there's lots of information on the slides there, and we do, where there's differences, highlight the difference between UK and Ireland. But this is the main part where this goes slightly differently depending on where you're submitting. So in the UK, we are now in Making Tax Digital, okay? And that means that you submit directly from your software under Making Tax Digital rules, but you need to just tell your software that you're doing that, okay? Now, if you've been submitting under Making Tax Digital for the last few years, do not worry, you don't need to change anything. You might want to have a quick look and see if it's switched on, but more than likely you're already submitting under Making Tax Digital because you'd be getting errors to indicate that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you where you can, because you might be someone who's new to VAT, okay? You might be doing your first VAT submission, you might have just hit a threshold, you might be a new business. So just want to show you where you can make sure that that is switched on. When you enable this, it just makes sure it goes to that new HMRC portal, which is under Making Tax Digital rules. So to do that, you just pop into your software and you go into, I'm just going to find the right company. There we go. Settings, company preferences, and pop your password in. And in here, there is a VAT tab. And within here, first of all, you need to make sure you've got your correct VAT registration entered. And when you've got that entered, you just then also need to tick the box for enabling Making Tax Digital for VAT submissions. If it's already ticked, that's great. When you do your first submission, it will take you through to the portal to establish that connection between yourself and HMRC. Okay, so in the UK, like I say, it means that we've got this option to submit online. Okay, and when we click on submit online, it takes you through a couple of windows. If you get a different window at this point that indicates you need to enable Making Tax Digital, it just means it's not yet switched on. You do need to have registered with HMRC first. Okay, so there is a link to register. Okay, I'm sure if you're recording VAT, you've probably already registered, but it does help you just in case you haven't. And then it connects to HMRC. Okay, so at this point, once I click next, it's going to connect. You're going to need those gateway details that you've set up with HMRC to get logged in. Now, this is where I can't go any further at the moment because it will try and do a submission. It'll probably fail because I don't have the right credentials. So at this point, we do just have a quick video to show you. Okay, it's about 2 minutes long, so I'm going to let that play. And then we'll come back and just show you the difference in Republic of Ireland. Okay, so if you're joining us from the Republic of Ireland, it is slightly different for you. Don't worry, we will show you the differences when we come back after this short video.
In this demonstration, we're going to show you the steps to submit your VAT return online. We join the demonstration where we're on step 3 of the VAT return, so it's already been reconciled, and we're ready to submit it online. So on the right hand side, we click Submit Online. The online submission wizard appears, and you click Next. Ensure that the correct company name and VAT registration number appears, and then click Next. An authority page appears, and if you scroll down to the bottom, you can then click Continue. You're then prompted to sign in with your Government Gateway user ID and password. Once entered, click Sign In. You then click Grant Authority. You'll then be prompted to choose your period, and it should default to the correct one. Just make sure this is correct, and then select the checkbox to say that you agree to the following HMRC declaration, and then click Submit to HMRC. Once completed, a congratulations message appears, indicating you successfully submitted your VAT return to HMRC. You click Close. You then return to the VAT return, and as you can see, the VAT return is now flagged as being submitted.
Okay, so that was basically the submission under the UK. Now, like I say, in Republic of Ireland, that is slightly different at present. And what you need to do is you need to download a file. Okay, now this is an XML file, and this can be uploaded directly to the Revenue Online Services. So to do this, you'll see that when you do your VAT return, rather than submit online, you get the option to open folder. Within that folder is a VAT returns folder, and it contains that XML file that you'll need to upload. Once you've uploaded that onto ROS, you can then tick to mark it as submitted. Okay, so you can tick it so that when you do look at your checklist, it looks as though you've completed all the tasks there. So slightly different in the Republic of Ireland. Okay, so now is a great opportunity for your questions. As I mentioned, this is a slightly shorter session, but we did find trying to squeeze parts 1 and 2 into a single webinar was quite a squeeze. It was quite a fast-paced session. So we did just want to slow it down and split the 2 in half. So just to summarize, we always recommend you have a backup of your data before you do anything in the VAT return. If anything goes wrong with the transfers or the payments, then sometimes it is easier just to restore a backup. So the VAT transfer is used to transfer the value from your sales and purchase tax control accounts for that period across to your VAT liability. And if you don't do this, what you'll just find is those balances start to look rather large, and it's not going to cause any major issue, but at some point someone might draw down a trial balance and think these figures look a little bit odd compared to everything else. The VAT transfer wizard takes the pain out of posting that journal manually. So you saw all of the opportunities for things to go wrong. If you use the VAT transfer wizard, it removes a lot of those pain points. If you use the record payment or record receipt option, it does the bank payment for you. Now, apparently there's a blank screen, so I'm just going to re-share the screen. So apologies, I'm just on the, just going to double check that that's feeding through. Do let me know. It looks all okay at this end, but I'll not take my word for it. Please do let me know. And I can go back through that slide for Republic of Ireland in just a moment if you missed that one, so I can go back there. Next, UK submissions are sent digitally through the software to HMRC. And Republic of Ireland, it's that XML file, okay? That XML file needs to be downloaded and uploaded to Revenue. So I'll just take this opportunity to pop back to that slide just to recap that if it was missed. So in Republic of Ireland, like I say, rather than submit online, over here you've got the option to open folder, which contains that file you need to upload to ROS. So quick question there, what can go wrong when submitting the VAT return? So I don't know if you mean just the actual submission or do you mean when you're actually processing? But during submission, there can be lots of errors that appear and there can be lots of causes of those errors. And we do have articles on our help centre which can help you with those. I'm just going to give you an example of a really common one we used to have, and it was a 1046 error. And that would be to do with the credentials not being quite correct. So it could be mistyping in maybe your government gateway password, sometimes an incorrect number popped in here or there. So there can be errors when submitting. I'm not going to say it's a perfect process, but sometimes it's checking things because they aren't correct. So it's not always you know, just an error for the sake of an error. Quite often there is something wrong with that submission that you need to get to the bottom of. So the help centre itself, if you typed in submission errors, would give you a list of different errors and the reasons for those errors as well. So it's always a good one to maybe add to your favourites, just so that you've got that on hand if it goes wrong. I'm hoping that answered the question there. If you came to the other sessions, you can see where there is things that can go wrong. So, or people not understanding some of the functions of the VAT return. So maybe ticking a box when they shouldn't, or including something they shouldn't, or ignoring something that they're not quite clear on. So session 1 does go through some of the pitfalls and some of the common queries through to technical support. So we'll show you that help centre next then. That takes us on very nicely onto the help centres. So I'm just, bear with me one second, going to find the screen for this one. There we go. I'm just going to reshare. Okay, so if you go to sage.co.uk/help, that takes you to the help centre, and that has help based on all of our software. So it's not just for accounts. If you've got a colleague or yourself doing payroll, you can find support on here too. But if we click into accounts, you can see we've got some areas which are common areas. So one of them is manage VAT. And in here again, you can select where you're based and that will bring up the articles relevant to where you are. So if we came into here, you can see that we've got details on setting up and processing tax codes, and also a section on not working as expected. Okay, so this might also help you if something's gone wrong. There's help and support available on here. What you can also do is you can go to sage.co.uk/webinars, or you can type in the word webinars into the search box on the help centre, and what that will do is take you to the options. So you've got the recordings, so you can find the recording of session 1 on there, or you can find our live sessions. So our live sessions, as you will see, if we scroll down a little bit there, we've got a session tomorrow morning on inactive records. And we also have another session tomorrow afternoon on 2-factor authentication. This is something that's going to start being rolled out as mandatory from Monday. Okay, now it won't apply to everyone immediately, Okay, so please do not panic. But if you want to find out when this may start to apply to you, then that session there on Wednesday is probably a good one to have a look at, because it depends what features you've got activated. Further down, we've got our session on Thursday. So I mentioned we're going to do a whole session on running reports, okay? What reports to run? What do I compare these figures against? So we've got that session on 2 p.m. on Thursday. And then I'm going to scroll down. Now, unfortunately, we did have a video for this. I couldn't get this to work earlier on. So we've got the video you can catch up on another session. It's just a really quick video that introduces you to the banking badge. Now, the banking badge, we did our last badge for International Accounting Day in November, proving very popular. We've moved on to a system called Accredible. Okay, now Accredible is where you can host all your badges in one place. So to find out more about that, absolutely recommend that you get yourself registered for these sessions. You need to attend 6 of the 8 sessions. So we've tried to make as many different sessions as possible and give you a choice of sessions to attend, and also to join our quiz. Okay, so you need to do 6 of the 8 plus a quiz to earn the badge. Now we're running them across 3 weeks to give you an opportunity to get to 6 of the sessions. So you think about it, it's 2 or 3 a week. So all those sessions are available now to book, and we're doing them duplicate, so you should be able to find a time that suits you. So get yourself registered there. Okay, so quick question there is, if an old VAT return was never VAT transferred from a prior year, does a journal need to be posted to correct this? Would the date at the next, what would the date be the next of the VAT return to be used? So this is where we'd probably recommend just running it by your accountant. Just make sure that they're happy with this. Sometimes what happens is people will go back into the software and literally go through their old, just trying to find my data set there. Give me 1 second. Just logging back on, just resetting the data so it does something. We're going to the VAT return. What some people do is they go back through their previous returns that they haven't transferred and then just go and post the journal as of the date, using the date that's the end of that period. So like I say, if you're unsure, wait till you're seeing your accountant already. Please do not go out of your way and be charged for speaking to your accountant. Maybe just say, I've missed a few. Have you done something yourself? Because they might have done adjustments. If not, then you can come back in. You can either post the journal manually or come into the VAT return and do it that way. There's a really quick question there as well. Now, this one is going to depend on whether you are in the UK or Ireland. And I think Michael's just given you the link there. And this is, do you have a guide on which VAT code to use for various transactions? So we do, and he's provided you with the article there. It's our tax code finder, and it basically asks you what you're trying to process, what is the VAT treatment for that, and ultimately you tries to come up with a tax code for you. There are some scenarios that it does say we need more information, so it may point you in the direction of HMRC in those cases. We don't have one like that for Ireland. There is a slightly different article for that that just gives information on which tax codes we have available there. Okay, so let's pop back to the slides. I think we're almost done there. We are indeed. So pretty much on time there. We just run over slightly, but we'll hang on just for a couple of minutes just in case there are any final questions there, because we've just had a few come through at the end. If you are leaving though, thank you very much for joining us. We'll hopefully see you in another session soon. We really would love to see you on our banking sessions next week. But if not, like I say, there's plenty of other content out there that you can get involved with. So we'll pop on mute and we'll be back just before we end the session there. Okay, we'll look to end the session there. So thank you very much for everyone for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you on another session soon. Bye for now.